considering the fact that some have been used to hold prisoners. Some contain hidden places where people have endured torture. It's a tale as old as time, and it's what makes people afraid of basements. Something about being underground in a dark, dark place is unsettling, no matter what is down there. I'm Ned, and my son Fallon is turning 14 years old, and insisted he wanted his bedroom to be in the basement. I'm becoming a man, Dad. I need my own space. My wife Alicia placed a full plate of pancakes, eggs, and bacon in front of him.
We should let him, Ned. I can even help you set it up. How would you like that, Fallon?
You don't have a say. You're not my mom, and I don't need your help. I had just gotten married to Alicia about 6 months ago. My ex-wife and I divorced about 2 years ago. Fallon has been resentful ever since, as he hasn't seen his mother. Try as my poor Alicia might, Fallon wouldn't accept her as a mother figure in his life. Not that Alicia tried to replace her, but the boy needed someone in that role. Fallon, we've talked about this. You can't talk to Alicia like that. Like what? I'm just stating the facts. That's what the therapist told me to do. The therapist didn't give you a warrant to be an asshole either. Alicia is part of this house now, and you will respect her. Fallon pushed his plate away. I have to go. Eat your breakfast, I yelled after him. I'm not hungry. He grabbed his backpack and stormed out the door. Alicia sat down and placed her hand on top of mine.
I appreciate you standing up for me.
No need to thank me for that, baby.
I know, but I married a good man, and I want him to know that.
She smiled and kissed me. I married a good woman, and I know with time, Fallon will see that too.
Thank you, my love. Listen, Fallon's birthday is in 2 weeks, and if he really wants his room in the basement, I say we surprise him and create a little man cave for him. I'll design it myself, and I know some guys who can whip it up in time for his birthday.
Alicia, you don't have to be that nice to him. Besides, it's not like a gesture like that will win him over.
No, but being hard on him is only going to push him further. I know how hard divorce can be on a kid. I came from a broken home too. Let me do this for him as my gift.
If you insist, I'll let you surprise him. Alicia was an interior designer, and with inspiration from Fallon's room and other interests, she and a crew had made up a section of the basement to be Fallon's own man cave, complete with a full-sized bed, LED lights, a flat-screen television, and gaming system. She also threw in a small refrigerator for all his soda pop and snacks. By the time his birthday came around and he saw his room, his eyes lit up, and, to my surprise, he hugged Alicia and thanked her over and over again. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I'm sorry for being mean.
I accept your apology.
Now that Fallon was settled in the basement, he started spending a lot of time down there. It got to the point where he was either in school or down in the basement. He didn't come up for anything. Then he started locking the basement. I didn't think anything of it until I started hearing screaming from the basement at night. I went down to see what was going on, pounding on the basement door. Fallon, I just heard screaming. Are you okay? Fine, Dad. I'm just watching a horror movie. Can you turn it down, please? Fine. I went back upstairs, and it was quiet the rest of the night. As time went on, women began to go missing. A strange smell started wafting from the basement, and Fallon just insisted that he had left some cheese out, and as soon as he finds it, he'll dispose of it. Something about his excuses didn't sit well with me, especially since he started being not only disrespectful toward Alicia, but me too. He grew agitated and unreasonable. One day, while he was at school and Alicia was on a business trip, I went down to the basement, and what I saw drained the color from my face. His man cave looked like any teenage boy's room, but the smell came from down the hall. I followed the trail, and to my horror, there was a room I didn't know about, where at least 6 women were all tied up and gagged. They were in nothing but a bra and underwear, clearly dehydrated. They looked at me with fear in their eyes. I looked around and found a video camera set up on a shelf above Fallon's bed. I took the camera and played the footage. I only made it a few seconds before I stopped and doubled over, puking all over the floor. I ran upstairs to get my phone and called the police. There was a reason we cut contact with my ex-wife, Emily. Why Fallon was in therapy. She used to go into his room at night and mark her territory, if you catch my drift. I went to the juvenile jail they're keeping him in to talk to him, as I haven't really seen him since they arrested him. I sat down at the desk and watched him come sit on the opposite side of the window that separated us. We each picked up the phone. "Hey, Fallon." "Hi, Dad." "What did you do to those women?" A sinister smile crept across his lips, and the look in his eyes was not of my son, but a demon. "I needed her, Dad. I needed Mom. She used to make me feel good. And then you took that away from me. I wanted it back. I had to get that feeling back. You took her away. So this is all your fault." I hung up the phone and stood. To not only hear that my son was being violated, but he also seemed to enjoy it and was violating other women to seek that pleasure. I was so ashamed that I couldn't look at him ever again. Alicia and I moved away and started a new life in a new city. Fallon is dead to me.
I swear I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It started as a joke, some stupid TikTok trend, the bird theory. Ask your partner if they saw a bird, record their reaction, and the internet decides if they're your soulmate. Harmless, dumb, whatever. Maya and I had been dating for about 3 months. It was still new enough that everything felt light and easy. Easy. We were sitting at a cafe we went to every Sunday, her scrolling her phone, me pretending I wasn't planning to pull a prank. I hit record, angled the camera casually, and said, "Hey, I saw a bird outside today." She blinked, shrugged, and went back to her latte.
Okay. Cool.
The video was boring, anticlimactic, but I posted it anyway. Captioned it, "Guess she's not my soulmate, #bird theory." 30 minutes later, it had 10,000 views. By the time Maya dropped me off at my apartment, it had hit 100,000. The comments were brutal, but I didn't read them. Not yet. I just assumed people were being dramatic, like always. Maya texted me at 7 p.m.
What did you post? Ben? People are tagging me. Why are they sending me my own face?
I told her I'd delete it when I got home. I didn't rush. I should have. At around 10 p.m., she stopped replying. I figured she was asleep. By midnight, the video hit 4 million views, and then everything cracked open. At 12:40 a.m., I was brushing my teeth, scrolling through comments with foam in my mouth, feeling my stomach sink lower and lower with each one. "Your girl looks dumb as hell. She's a narcissist. I tracked her profile. She's so mid." I froze mid-scroll. Death threats? I immediately texted her. "Hey, are you okay? I'm deleting it now. Call me." I deleted the video, turned off the water, listened to the quiet. That's when I heard a creak. It was my front door. I walked out of the bathroom, toothbrush still in my hand, toothpaste dripping onto my shirt. "Maya?" I called. What stepped out of the darkness hardly looked like her. Her hair was tangled, mascara streaked across her cheeks and her eyes. Her eyes didn't look like they'd ever blink again. In her shaking hand was the kitchen knife I kept in the block on my counter. She must have let herself in with the spare key I'd given her.
You made the whole world hate me,
she whispered. I raised my hands instinctively. "Maya, hey, listen, we can talk. I deleted the video. I didn't know—"
You made me a joke. You let strangers rip me apart.
"Maya, please, put the kitchen knife down."
For content.
She stepped toward me. I stepped back into the hallway. "Maya, you're scaring me."
Good.
She lunged. I didn't even see the blade until it sank halfway into my forearm. It felt like being hit with a burning hammer. I screamed and fell against the wall, blood spilling down my hand. "Maya, stop!" She raised the knife again, and I swear she wasn't crying anymore. She was smiling, like this was justice, like I deserved it. My screams must have shaken the entire floor. Doors flew open. First was Arun from across the hall. He froze for a millisecond at the sight of the knife, the blood, me on the ground. Then he charged. Behind him came Mark, the guy with the pit bull. The two of them hit Maya like a tidal wave. She shrieked, furious, feral, slashing blindly. They wrestled her down, one pinning her wrists, the other holding her legs as she thrashed. "Call 911!" Arun shouted. "Ben's bleeding out!" Neighbors poured into the hallway, half asleep, horrified, holding their phones, staring at Maya as she screamed.
He ruined my life! He made me a meme! Everyone hates me because of him!
Her voice cracked, broke, shattered.
He made them hate me!
Even pinned, she kept trying to throw herself at me, like she'd chew through their arms if she had to. Blood was everywhere. Hers, mine. I couldn't tell. All I could think was, this is my fault. I did this. The cops arrived in minutes. They handcuffed her while she was still screaming my name. They had to drag her out of the hallway because she refused to stand. I watched them pin her against the elevator wall. She kept shouting through sobs.
You made them destroy me! You made them know who I am!
The elevator doors closed on her voice. I never heard someone sound so broken and so dangerous at the same time. The paramedics wrapped my arm. I kept apologizing, even when they told me to stop talking. I apologized to everyone present, but mostly to Maya, even though she wasn't there, even though she tried to kill me. The guilt sat on my chest like a cinder block. I opened TikTok while waiting in the ambulance. My comments section was blowing up again, this time with duets of the news report. Bird test almost turns deadly. Girlfriend attacks boyfriend over viral trend. People weren't laughing anymore. Some were horrified. Some still mocked her. Some called her unstable. And some blamed me for posting it. One comment stuck out, sitting at the top with 50,000 likes. The bird test doesn't reveal who loves you. It reveals who can't survive being exposed. I locked my phone. The paramedic asked if I was okay. No, I whispered. I don't think either of us are. He nodded slowly. I looked back at my apartment building, the hallway still stained red, neighbors whispering behind their doors. Dangerous didn't even begin to cover it, because the truth hit me harder than the knife did. I didn't know Maya at all, and maybe, I never should have tried to.
My name is Martha. I am 52 years old, and I live in a small neighborhood on the south side of Chicago, across the street from a square that has witnessed all kinds of things. The view from my window gives me the opportunity to witness many situations. Call me a busybody if you want, but I like to know what's going on around me. It's not paranoia. I've simply learned that being vigilant can save your life in a place like this. The neighborhood is not the best. There are robberies, muggings, and sometimes worse. So when I hear something out of the ordinary, my first instinct is to call the police. I've done it more times than I'd like to admit. At first, they took my call seriously, but eventually they started treating them as nuisances. "There's the lady again," they mutter. I know because once I didn't hang up the phone properly and heard them. The nights are the worst. After 11 o'clock, the square becomes a strange place. Sometimes I hear screams, always different. Voices that sound like people asking for help or arguing. I never see anyone from my window, I just listen. Once I even went downstairs to try to record something with my phone, but I didn't see anything. Things went on like that until a few weeks ago when I decided to stop calling the police. They were mad at me and wouldn't do anything anyway, but that decision, I'm sure, marked the beginning of my worst nightmare. It was a night like any other. I was watching television when I heard it. A scream. I immediately turned off the TV and went to the window. I saw nothing, just the dark, empty square. The scream was repeated, this time closer. There was a woman's voice, young, and she was terrified. For a moment I hesitated. I could ignore it and pretend nothing happened, as I had been doing lately, but something inside me pushed me to act. I grabbed my cell phone, opened my front door, and crossed the street. The cold of the night chilled my bones, but I kept walking. The square seemed quiet, but there was something strange in the atmosphere. Everything was too quiet, as if the nose had been swallowed up by something. I walked among the trees with my cell phone, illuminating every corner. Someone had to have shouted. There had to be some proof or something that could help the police take me seriously. Then I felt it. A presence behind me. I turned around suddenly, but there was no one there. I took a deep breath and forced myself to keep walking, though each step seemed heavier. After a few minutes, I saw it. A figure in the distance, moving slowly through the trees. The light from my cell phone was not enough to fully illuminate the man, but I could see that he was walking slowly, as if he was in no hurry. I didn't know if he had seen me, but at that moment, I didn't want to find out. I took a step back, trying not to make a sound, but I stepped on a branch that snapped with a snapping sound. The figure stopped. My heart seemed to want to burst out of my chest. I pointed the flashlight again, but the man was gone. I turned in all directions, searching with my eyes. Then I heard it. Footsteps behind me, quick and sure. I nervously pointed to where the silhouette was, and I think that was the most terrifying moment of my life. That person was standing there, staring at me. He wasn't hiding that he was following me. He was just standing in the dark where the flashlight couldn't reach, staring at me as if I was an animal about to be attacked. I didn't think. I just ran. The square was not big, but my house was on the opposite side, and every second seemed like an eternity. I felt the footsteps getting closer and closer, although I never turned to look. In the midst of my desperation, I saw the public restroom in the plaza. Without thinking twice, I went in there and closed the door tightly, locking it with the latch. For a moment, everything was silent. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely hold the flashlight. Then, a soft knock on the door broke the silence. The pounding continued, slow but insistent. It wasn't loud but constant enough to make me want to scream. Then I heard his voice. "May I come in? I need to use the bathroom," he said calmly, as if he hadn't just chased me across the square. "Go away!" The man didn't answer. He just kept pounding, with the same steady rhythm. I cried silently, begging him to get tired and go away, but it wasn't happening. The man just kept knocking and kept knocking, asking to come in politely and ignoring anything I said to him. Minutes passed, maybe hours. I lost track of time. Finally, the knocking stopped. I thought it was over, but when I looked under the door, I saw his feet. He was moving back and forth as if he was waiting for me to come out. I was beginning to relax, to feel that the man was really leaving. I don't know how much time passed, but I was startled by a violent bang. The door was being rammed. I screamed and cowered in a corner, expecting the worst. I looked for something to defend myself, a rock, a broomstick, a fire extinguisher, something. But no, that place was empty. I had nothing to defend myself with. Meanwhile, with each thrust, the door gave way more. Finally, it fell to the floor with a crash. I was already prepared for the worst. I stared in the direction of my attacker, but to my surprise, there was no one there. My relief was brief. Something moved in the doorway. It was him. I couldn't see his face. The light from the square barely illuminated his figure. He walked toward me, slowly, then stopped in front of one of the cubicles. I didn't hesitate for a second. I took advantage of that moment to run. I left the bathroom without looking back, crossed the square, and entered my house, closing all the doors and windows. I called the police, crying and explaining what had happened. At first, they told me they would send a patrol car, but hung up before I could give them more details. The police weren't even listening to me. They hadn't taken me seriously. A couple of hours later, they called me. They had found a young woman at the police station, reporting that a man had tried to assault her in the plaza that night. There were no cameras that captured her face clearly, but it matched what I had experienced. This time, they believed me. The police asked for the cameras in the plaza, and although they were unable to identify the criminal's face, they could see me panic in front of him. However, something didn't add up. According to the police, the thief seemed only interested in stealing. With me, it was different. He didn't try to take anything from me, he just toyed with me. For some, that might have been a relief. For me, it's much worse. It means that the man had fun torturing me. and if he is a bit attentive, he also knows or can find out that I live very close by. Since that night, I haven't heard any more screams in the square, but I feel it is because he is planning his next attack on me. Every time I look out the window, I seem to see a shadow moving through the trees, although I'm never sure. The neighborhood is still dangerous, but now I know there is something worse than thieves or screaming. There are people who don't want your money. They just want your fear, and maybe, if I give them another chance, my life.
On the evening of December 22nd, 1989, the Harris family of Dryden, New York, received the final visitor of their lives. One after the other, Tony Harris, his wife Dolores, and their 2 younger children were tied up, shot in the head, doused with gasoline, and then set alight. Their charred corpses were discovered the following morning, after a neighbor complained to the fire department about a smoke alarm going off on their property. Disturbingly, the police stated that the Harris' home showed no signs of forced entry, leading them to believe that their killer had either snuck in through an open door or maybe a window, but was highly unlikely, given the frigid outdoor temperatures, or that the killer was someone they knew and trusted. In light of how difficult it was to discern any kind of motive, the investigation into the murders quickly stalled, and local law enforcement reached out to the FBI for more extensive assistance. FBI agents discovered that a brown van had been taken from the Harris' family garage, one that was later discovered in a parking lot of a nearby mall. Police also declared that they wished to speak with a cyclist seen riding through the area shortly before nightfall on December 22nd. Frustratingly, not a single witness came forward, and this further slowed an already difficult investigation. Back at the Harris' home, Christmas wreaths and red ribbons had been joined by yellow crime scene tape. The family had moved there just 3 years prior, after Tony was offered a job at Deanco, a Syracuse-based electronic equipment distributor. His wife Dolores, or Dodie as she was known, was a popular figure in the neighborhood, frequently organizing bake sales and cookie exchanges while running a small crafts and gift shop out of the family home. The murders stunned the local community, with Tompkins County Sheriff Robert Howard stating that there hadn't been a murder in the area in a long time. Naturally, the Harris' neighbors were horrified by such a brutal slaying, who stated that their suburb of Ellis Hollow was the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked. For a horrific crime to happen there, something had to have gone very wrong. At the family's collective funeral, loved ones and neighbors described them as active and well-liked members of the community. "You can't think of anyone that would have a grudge against them," said Ann Parzale, a friend of Mrs. Harris. "People can't understand how it could happen. This is a very wholesome, family-oriented community. Those things aren't supposed to happen here, inside this community," added Edgar Clemens, who was a retired school teacher and had lived on Ellis Hollow Road for 26 years. "I don't think anybody around here slept Saturday night. I've opened the door to people whose cars have broken down. I don't think I'll do that anymore." Police quickly uncovered a suspect, however, an ex-con known as Michael Kinge, and set about tracking him down. Yet when they finally cornered him at his apartment complex, Kinge produced a shotgun, placed it under his chin, and threatened to kill himself. The cops held their fire, promising to bring in a trained negotiator in hopes of de-escalating the situation. But before that negotiator could arrive, Kinge aimed the shotgun at police officers and fired. Thankfully, the shot sent lead fragments spraying harmlessly above their heads, and law enforcement's return fire was considerably more accurate. But before he fell, Kinge turned the shotgun on himself, racked a shell into the chamber, and fired. The Tompkins County medical examiner found that the shots Kinge fired in his attempt at suicide had merely grazed the left side of his face, and it was the police's small caliber handgun ammunition that actually put him down. However, given the circumstances of Kinge firing a shot at them, his death was ruled a justifiable homicide. Obviously, Kinge was never put on trial for the murders, but his suicide by cops situation was seen by many as a tantamount to his admission of guilt. This was later confirmed when a sawed-off rifle found in the suspect's apartment was positively identified as the weapon used to kill the Harris family. Kinge's mother was wrongly convicted of being involved in the murders and ended up being a major police scandal. But aside from this horrifying miscarriage of justice, The really disturbing thing is that the motive behind the killings was never determined. No one knows why a small-time crook like Michael Kinge just suddenly snapped and chose the most wonderful time of the year for one of the most heinous crimes in history.
I moved to the U.S. with enough money to rent a small house far from the city. People didn't talk much to me, and I didn't push it. I kept the lights low and tried to save every dollar I could. One night, while I was cleaning the kitchen, I heard a tapping on the window. Not loud, just steady enough to make me turn my head. An owl was perched outside, staring straight at me. I wasn't used to animals getting that close. Before I could react, it dropped something on the sill and flew off. It was a small old coin, scratched, worn, nothing special. I put it on the table and forgot about it. I thought maybe it was a weird coincidence or the bird had grabbed the coin from somewhere else. But it wasn't just one coin. Each night the owl came back, tapped on my window, dropped another coin, and left. I kept them in a drawer because I didn't know what else to do. I figured it was strange but harmless. I didn't know that those coins were warnings or targets. Before the next thing happened, the tapping was different, faster, like someone knocking urgently, but with claws. When I looked up, the owl was already there, but it didn't act the same. It wasn't calm. It moved its head like it was checking the room behind me. It dropped another coin, but this one wasn't worn. It looked recently cleaned. When I turned it over, I noticed a black mark drawn across it. Not a design from the mint, a human mark. I stepped away from the window, keeping the coin in my hand. My first thought was that someone was playing a prank on me. Then I wondered if the owl belonged to someone. That idea didn't make me feel better. I tried calling the police. The call didn't go through. I tried again. Still nothing. I checked the landline. Dead. I checked my router. No signal. Everything had been working just an hour before. I looked outside one more time. The owl wasn't there anymore. The yard looked normal, but normal didn't feel right anymore. I closed the blinds slowly, unsure if someone was watching from the dark. Before anything happened, I stood still in the hallway, listening. The neighborhood was too quiet. No cars, no sirens, not even the usual barking from the house behind me. It felt like everyone had gone to sleep at the exact same moment. A deep thump hit the back door. Not a knock. A test. Someone pushing to see how strong it was. Another thump followed. Harder. I grabbed a utility knife from the kitchen drawer. The only thing I had that could count as a weapon. It didn't make me feel safe. My hands were shaking. I stepped toward the door, slow and tense. The third strike bent the wood. The frame creaked. Then I heard breathing on the other side, low and steady, like the person wasn't trying to hide it. The door cracked open with a violent kick. A man stepped inside. Dark jacket, mask, gloves, fast movements. I didn't even think. I swung the knife at him. The blade barely cut his arm, but he got angry instantly. He grabbed my wrist, twisted it until I dropped the knife, and slammed me into the floor. Pain shot through my shoulder and ribs. He pinned me down with his knee. "You really want to make this worse for yourself?" His voice sounded calm. Too calm. Another man entered behind him, taller, carrying a small bag like he already had everything planned. I lay on the floor, helpless, realizing the owl had been the least of my problems. Before they moved me, they scanned the room like they were checking if someone else was hiding inside. The taller man flicked the lights on and off. Then he checked my windows, my doors, the closets, even behind the furniture. They knew exactly what they were doing. The man who had pinned me took out a roll of tape. He wrapped my wrist so tight the skin folded under it. Then my ankles. Then my mouth. He turned to me on my stomach and dragged me by my shirt collar toward the living room. My chest scraped against the floorboards. They stopped in the center of the room and looked at the walls like they were deciding where to work. They didn't care what they damaged. They just wanted the space. The second man dumped the contents of the bag onto the floor. Tools. Not construction tools. Tools meant for controlling someone. Clamps, rope, tape.
My name is Jasper. I'm a Dutch guy in my mid-20s, and I've been working as a security guard for about 3 years now. After being an event security officer for about 2 years, I started working for a security company that handled other kinds of jobs, including night shifts at places not related to events, and providing security at a few campgrounds. Since I worked a lot for this company and they grew to trust me, despite being a relatively new colleague, they asked me if I wanted to take on a job at one of these campgrounds, as it would provide a lot of hours. I agreed, thinking it would be a good opportunity to earn extra money and gain experience. Security is something I'm really passionate about. The work days and hours were long. I often worked 6 or 7 days a week, always in the evening from 8 p.m. to 3, 4, or sometimes even 5 a.m. For the sake of the story, I'll fast forward a bit. Quite a few things happened during that time, such as drunk guests, a man overdosing in his caravan, and even a woman having a schizophrenic episode in the middle of the night. In any case, none of those events stood out compared to what I'm about to tell you. The campground was large, and I was given a bicycle to get around more easily. One of my primary tasks was to patrol the grounds, since there was a curfew after 10 p.m., after which kids and teens weren't allowed to wander outside their tents or hang around playgrounds. While I built a pretty good rapport with the younger crowd, they were still kids, and they didn't really follow the rules. This led to the manager of the campground and my supervisor expanding my duties. Behind the campground, there was a forest with a large outdoor theater where music events were occasionally held. While it technically wasn't part of the campground, the kids would often go there at night and gather behind the stage. This was illegal, since you're not allowed to be in forests after sunset in the Netherlands, and it also violated the campground's curfew rules. So I was assigned to check the forest and the theater during my patrols. Now, I'm a big guy, about 6'5", and well-trained in self-defense, so a pitch-black forest didn't really scare me. I had caught kids out there plenty of times by sneaking up on them. Of course, to do that, it's important to stay quiet and low, which meant I didn't use my flashlight most of the time. One night, while patrolling as usual, I went into the forest to check it out. If you were really quiet, you could sometimes hear kids sneaking around the theater, laughing in the distance. That was the case this night, too. I sighed, thinking they still hadn't learned their lesson, even after multiple warnings and the manager threatening to kick them out. I biked to the edge of the campground where the lights and paved paths ended. I could hear whispering and quiet laughter in the distance, so I parked my bike and moved into the forest without my flashlight, staying as quiet as possible. When I reached the theater, nobody was there. I turned on my flashlight to make sure they weren't hiding, since they had done that before, but I couldn't find anyone. The faint whispers continued, but now they were coming from another direction. I knew there was a watchtower further ahead with a bench underneath it. I had caught kids hanging out there before, so I figured that's where they went. I moved through the forest toward the tower and stood behind a tree, watching the bench. Again, nobody was there. At this point, I still wasn't creeped out. I figured they had spotted me and were messing with me. My last thought was that maybe they had climbed all the way up the tower. The whispers stopped. Then suddenly, I heard a young man scream from above me. I immediately turned on my flashlight and pointed it toward the high watchtower. That's when it happened. It all happened incredibly fast, yet I remember it like it was in slow motion. A cloud-like humanoid shape, a pitch-black silhouette, appeared to fall from the tower at an unnatural speed. I only caught a glimpse of it as it passed through the beam of my flashlight. It was upside down, like it had been thrown head first from the top. It landed just a few feet away from me with a loud thud. Then, silence. I froze, convinced I had just witnessed someone die right in front of me. I widened the beam of my flashlight and scanned the ground around the tower. There was nothing. No body, no sound, not even disturbed ground. My heart started pounding louder and louder as the forest grew completely still. At first, I thought I might have been hallucinating. I was exhausted from the long hours, and maybe it was just a shadow crossing my flashlight beam, creating an illusion. But that wouldn't explain the thud or the scream. I ran back to my bike and rode straight to the bar, where the entertainment team usually stayed late. I told them what happened, and one of the women took me outside. She told me that the year before I started working there, a teenage boy had fallen from that tower and died on the spot. They never found out if it was an accident or if someone pushed him. After that, I refused to go back into that area. The fear was so strong that I ended up faking my reports, lying about me having been to the forest to check. I still don't know if I was just hallucinating and imagining things, but I am a spiritual person, and this could truly have been the echo or even spirit of the boy.